What would it mean if construction could become completely fossil-free? In this episode, we examine the benefits of electrifying construction equipment and the challenges of achieving zero emissions on work sites. The sound you hear in the background comes from machines and vehicles running on diesel, by far the most common fuel used on construction sites. Diesel has long been the technology of choice for the construction sector due to its unique combination of power and performance and portability of machines. But this is about to change. This is the sound of electric excavators and fossil-free trucks. Okay, it's not exactly silent, but it's significantly quieter, especially if you're working in this environment every day.
We can eliminate much sound, but not all sound. The more we can minimize and do with electric excavators or electric crushers, it's the right step to take. But it's always going to be sound. But as I said, we can minimize most of it.
John Schott Eriksson is a Skanska production manager at the meatpacking district in Stockholm, the first completely fossil-free construction site in Sweden using electric machinery as well as biodiesel.
It's going to be a new city part of Stockholm. A little bit of apartments, a little bit of office spaces. We have 18 excavators or dump trucks, and we have 4 or 5 wheel loaders and a big crusher with a crusher after it for smaller fractions. We have big trucks. Everything is fossil-free. Every machines, every crusher, everything.
And for those who work here, the transition means some big differences.
It's like a whole new world. We are used to have the noise and have the vibrations, but it's a better working environment. The silence comes from the electric excavators. The people who have been driving it say that they don't want to drive an ordinary excavator after this because it's so quiet and you don't have the noise or the vibrations in the cab. So for them it's much better. Working outside the excavator, like when you're shoveling and stuff like that, they don't get the fumes that you get from the diesel fumes, or you don't have to turn off the machine when you're talking to them. You hear everything that's going on around you, and it's much better working environment for them also. So it's quiet on the outside and on the inside.
Stockholm's fossil-free project is a really interesting one. Electrification is picking up speed across the Nordic region, especially in neighboring Norway. But the USA is also getting connected. On a major transit project, the Los Angeles Metro's Purple D Line extension project, Skanska has been testing different electric vehicles, including the Volvo EC230, which is the same machine in use on the Stockholm site. This zero-emissions machine has been engineered to match the capabilities of its diesel-powered counterparts. James Bailey is the Executive Vice President for Skanska's West Coast region. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
So, James, I'd like to ask you to please describe your experience with electric machines, particularly with regards to the LA Metro Purple Line project.
On the LA Metro Purple Line project was our first endeavor into use of electric construction equipment on a project here in the western United States. When Volvo reached out to us to pilot the EC230 electric excavator, we felt that this site was well suited for this application, as when we were using the tunnel boring machine on this site, we already had temporary power at each of the stations that represent the subway system. So with this electric power already in place, we had the required power to recharge the electric excavator using 480 volt power. Also, the construction on this site was very contained into very small areas within the Metro Los Angeles area, so we could bring the excavator onto the construction site, use it in the station, and we only had to track a couple hundred feet back to where the charging infrastructure was. The runtime on these initial piloted machines is really in the 6-hour range. We had to recharge them at lunch in order to keep them running for the full 8-hour shift that we were working. So it's important that the machine doesn't have to track too far to get back to the power source to get it recharged during lunch. We were very successful on the West Side job doing that, so it worked very well. When we demoed this machine there, we got really good feedback on how the machine worked, and it actually was very well suited because we were very much in a residential area, and the machine is almost quiet. The only noise you have from the machine is really from the bucket engaging with the ground. So this demonstration was very well suited for an urban environment, which was well suited for the Purple Line project.
So speaking about an urban environment, what does a quieter construction site mean for the local community?
These construction projects take multiple years to develop, to implement, to really get the construction going. And when you're in a very urban, dense population where you have residential neighborhoods, you have local businesses all around you, that the quieter you can construct within that area, the better it is for the residentials and the people around you. Their environment is much quieter. It's much more safe because they do not smell the diesel fumes of a traditional excavator in these areas. So when we can go into the society and build for society, we can make sure that we can adapt to their environment and make sure that we just don't disturb them at the least amount possible.
If we turn to the operators themselves at the sites, what would fossil-free construction sites mean for the working environment?
You know, I have to admit, the operators were a little bit skeptical when we said, hey, we're going to use this electric excavator on this site. But once they kind of got into it and they kind of understood how it worked, the feedback was really positive. The machines cycle much quicker than their diesel counterparts. You do not have the fumes of the diesel engine running, and they really embraced the environment. They actually said the power had a lot more power. The swing speed was a lot quicker. So we had a lot of great feedback from the operators, and they're very excited to really pioneer this new technology.
Do you think it's possible to use only electric power at a construction sites, or what other technologies will have to be in the mix?
I think eventually it'll be possible. I would say that we're in the very early stages of electric equipment in the construction industry. Really, these are the first generation piloted machines. You're going to start seeing the second generation of these machines come into the market. We do not have substitutes for all level of machineries. Really, it's the kind of the mid-size excavators, smaller forklifts, bobcats, and that kind of equipment that we're seeing right now enter the market. Obviously, we have big cranes and other items that really we don't see a substitute right now. So I think that technology is coming. I also think you'll see a mixture of the hydrogen market help bring the carbon reduction to the electrical fleet. So I think it's going to be the mixture of two technologies in the near future to really get us to that next horizon of the carbon reduction on the construction sites.
Mm-hmm. Now, we've spoken about the benefits for the local community, for the working environment. What are the main benefits for customers with these electric machines and for the market?
You know, our customers really want sustainability. They really want to embrace sustainability on their construction sites, and they really want to be the first to bring it to their jobs, to their clientele, to their neighborhoods. And I think that's really what is critical for those benefits. And that's way before we talk about, you know, the 45% reduction in carbon emissions we're seeing from the electrical excavators in comparison to a diesel counterpart, which is a huge reduction. But I really think they want to be in a safer work environment too. You know, with electrical excavators, you don't need to fuel them. You don't need to do oil changes. So there's environmentally friendly things. It takes out the risk of having a diesel spill on the ground or oil spill on the ground when you're doing oil changes. Really, the machine is much simpler, much easier to maintain. Really, the only fluids they really have in are the hydraulic fluids, which is, you know, really vegetable oil and all aspects of how hydraulics work. the fumes of a safer work environment, the quieter. I mean, I think they want to embrace all these things when they're working in very urban environments, and they all want to be the first in sustainability, embrace sustainability.
So what difference would you say that these solutions make for emissions as a total?
I think with Skanska's initiative to really get to net zero, that these electric equipment is really the first step for us to get to a very sustainable future. Right now, from a biodiesel perspective, which is what we use here in California, you already get a 50% reduction from standardized conventional diesel. But with these machines coming in, we actually get another 48%. So really, we're almost getting to the point where we're getting down to that net zero goal. We reduce our carbon footprint with these machines by 34 tons a year if we can use them for 2,000 hours in the year. So I think that goal alone, even if you only have one piece in there, you're making an impact. But every time we can add additional pieces in and we can electrify the site as a total, we will get to reduction goals much faster than our original targets that we set here at Skanska.
Well, we've spoken about the sustainable aspects of, the benefits for a company like Skanska. Do we have any other benefits that you see?
I think our people really get around sustainability. I mean, society expects sustainability. Our clients expect sustainability. And when our people our employees can be a part of that solution and they can work towards improving the environment and society in which they work, we really feel that it engages our people to be more powerful in the climate discussion and the environmental discussion going forward. And I think that's a big win for everybody. Every step counts, and I think that's the key to achieving targets, is that we take every step we can to make that happen over the shortest period of time that's reasonably possible.
Thank you so much, James Bailey, for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you very much.
It's getting easier to see the benefits of electrifying construction sites. But can sites of the future be completely fossil-free? Well, Oslo, the capital of Norway, thinks so. The city wants all municipal construction sites to be zero emission by 2025 and all construction work, public or private, to be zero emission by 2030. So what challenges are there to switch to electrical construction sites everywhere? Dr. Ray Gallant is Volvo CE's Vice President for Sustainability and Productivity Services North America. Welcome, Ray, to Shaping Sustainable Places.
Good morning, Madeline.
Volvo CE is the manufacturer with one of the world's largest range of electric machines for the construction industry, with the goal of making fossil-free machinery more accessible. So, Ray, as an OEM or an original equipment manufacturer, what challenges are there to switching to fossil-free or emission-free construction sites everywhere?
The largest challenges are that it not only changes the machine and how the machines operate, these new technologies, but they also change how the job sites operate, and what the advantages that these bring are different for different job conditions. So what the operators are telling us and what job sites are reporting is that the lack of noise, the lack of vibration, and the lack of emissions allow them to go into many more sites where they could not operate beforehand. So the sites where they're around urban areas where there's a lot of people around, you have to be very careful with the noise and the emissions. These machines are able to work in those areas without disturbing the environment around them, or indoor uses, or around valuable livestock and agricultural products, or even food products. These machines don't have the emissions, don't have the particulate matter to contaminate what's around them. So it's not only replacing a diesel machine, it's finding applications where the electric machines have an advantage, and that makes it attractive for the customers to go into these electric machines. And it's our job as an OEM to isolate and find those particular applications that are attractive for this electric machine transformation, and not just focus on the applications that are done very well at the moment by diesel equipment, or that we don't have a readily available electric technology to replace it with.
Any other key advantages in using electric machines in construction?
So we build them to feel exactly the same as the diesel machine, to have the same specifications as the diesel machine. And the reason for that is that the operator can jump off a diesel machine that he's used to and onto an electric machine and feel comfortable operating, that the machine will act the way he predicts it to. What operators are telling us when they get on them is that the machines are very, very reactive and feel more powerful than their diesel counterparts. So what they're feeling is the fact that electrics have a very, very rapid torque curve. So the minute you pull back on the joystick, you get a very good reaction. But further to that, not only are the operators comfortable in getting their job done, what the operators are telling us is the fatigue levels and the comfort levels on an electric machine is far, far better than we would have anticipated or we even thought it would be. We knew they were quieter than a diesel, but the operators are telling us at the end of the day that compared to a diesel machine where they get off and their ears are ringing, they had to wear earplugs all day and they feel dirty and grimy, with an electric machine, they're getting off at the end of the day like they were sitting in an easy chair operating a joystick all day. It surprised us a little bit at how significant that difference was in operator comfort and operator satisfaction with these electric machines.
So one thing that I've been wondering is also, I mean, we're speaking about an urban environment, but what about more remote places and a lack of electric charge, etc.? How can that affect the choice toward a more fossil-free option?
So that is one of the other big challenges that we have. So electrifying the machine is actually, from an engineering point of view, fairly easy. We have the technology. We know how to put in a battery. We know how to put in the motors. We can control it. It's it's more how are we going to get the fuel, the electricity in this case, to the machines in some of these remote job sites. And that's a particular challenge for off-road equipment, of course. So we look at it in terms of 3 different methods to do that. So if you happen to be fortunate enough to be near a grid, you can, of course, connect a charger directly to the grid, or can even connect the machine directly to the grid and operate off-grid electricity. Ideally, if that electricity is solar or wind-driven, then that is a totally green solution where the machine is operating off green electricity. If you cannot hook up to the grid or it's a long distance from your job site, then we have to provide solutions for the customer where he can take the electricity out to the machine and recharge the machine every day. So we're coming up with different portable battery packs that allow him to do that. So you basically charge up a battery in a home base somewhere and take it out to the machine, plug the machine in and recharge the machine. And finally, if neither of those options are applicable, then we're looking at different ways to generate the electricity that he needs on the job site. And this same thinking is going to go through to other sustainable technologies coming up, such as hydrogen. So to make hydrogen feasible, the machines can be built with hydrogen fuel cells or hydrogen combustion, but we need to make sure there are sources of hydrogen at the job site so that you can refuel the machines when you need to and keep your job sites going.
Now, I'm sure that many of our listeners would like to know more specifically regarding carbon emissions. Now, if you could elaborate with specific examples, if possible, how this shift actually contributes to reducing carbon emissions.
So the largest part of carbon emissions, if you take scope 1, 2, and 3 carbon emissions in the life cycle of a piece of heavy equipment, in an articulated hauler, for instance, a 45-ton hauler, about 94% of the carbon emissions come directly out of the tailpipe. So it comes when you're burning fuel and operating that machine over its lifetime. That's where the majority of the emissions come from. So that's really the area that we're concentrating on. So if we can get the fuel burn down or even eliminated, we eliminate 94% of the carbon that would come out of that machine during its life cycle and bring it down to only 6% in that case. So that's really what we're concentrating on, what we're focusing on.
Ray, how long do you think we'll have to wait before the majority of construction sites all over the world are fossil-free?
I think we're going to see, not going to see a particular period in time where it's 100%. I think what you're going to see is certain applications that lend themselves to electric will flip fairly quickly. So we'll see that in the next decade or so. But there will be some applications that's very, very difficult to electrify because of the infrastructure needed, because of the machines, particular models and specialty machines needed. So they may be a bit longer. So I'm hesitant to say 100% at any future date, but certainly we envision for most of the equipment that we manufacture, we plan to have 100% fossil-free offerings by 2040 to allow customers to convert by 2050.
Thank you very much, Ray, for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks very much.
In this episode, James Bailey, the Executive Vice President for Skanska's West Coast Region USA, said that the electric excavator Volvo EC230 was well suited for the LA Purple Line project. It can last the whole working day and is almost quiet, which was very well suited because they used it in a residential area. And the operators at the site were very excited to really pioneer this new technology. Dr. Ray Gallant, Volvo Construction Equipment's Vice President for Sustainability and Productivity Services, said that the largest challenges are that the electric machines are not only replacing the diesel machines, but they also change how the job sites operate. This new technology is finding applications where the electric machines have an advantage, and it's Volvo CE's job as an original equipment manufacturer to isolate and find those particular applications that are attractive for this electric machine transformation. And John Schott Eriksson, production manager at the meat packing district in Stockholm, who himself has tried the electric excavator, is certain that fossil-free construction sites are here to stay.
This is the future, and I think I don't want to go back because it's too good where we are right now, and it only gets better. So this is just a step in the right direction, and I hope everyone is looking at to make an electric sites or making electric excavators, because it's so positive reactions on both the drivers and the people around the machine that's it doesn't make any sense to go back when we can take steps forward.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out in the future. If you have any thoughts about this episode or ideas for new ones to come, don't hesitate to reach out to podcast@skanska.com. We'd love to hear from you. This is a podcast from Skanska, a leading property development and construction group. To find out more about how we and others are creating healthy, resilient communities and spaces, visit us at foresight.skanska.com. I'm Madeline Joseph-Ricci. Thank you for joining us as we explore shaping sustainable places.